Now, a report on the world pension industry by corporate insurance carrier Allianz Global has ranked Nigeria 64th among 70 countries surveyed. The debut pension report of Allianz, which was launched with an indicator known as the Allianz Pension Indicator, also finds that retirement solutions are under increasing pressure in the persistent low interest rate environment as the number of people in retirement age is expected to rise and put social security system under severe pressure. The head of employee benefits at Allianz Nigeria Insurance, Gomez Oladeinde, joins us now to give some insight into this maiden survey. Good morning and thanks for coming on Business.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Now, one would wonder what even informed the shift of Allianz from insurance to pension in the first place.
So Allianz as a global body is into insurance and asset management. And part of the asset management deals basically with insurance and mutual funds. That is why we are also interested in pensions. And the business at Allianz is protecting people and ensuring a lifelong financial well-being of all and sundry. And one of the ways to ensure the lifelong financial well-being of any individual is through a robust pension system. You know you're working today. If I retire tomorrow, what is there for me? That is why we decided to go into this report, the pension report.
Now, with that background you're given now, talk us through the pension indicator and its three pillars that are mentioned in the report.
So the pension, the Allianz Pension pillar, the Allianz Pension Report is based on three pillars. We have the demography, we have the sustainability, and we have the adequacy of the pension system. For the demography, we are looking at the age composition of the population. So each of the 70 countries that were x-rayed in this report, we look at their age composition. What is the old age ratio, old age dependency ratio of the populace? So for Nigeria, on this particular pillar, we came first with 1.64, and that's how good as it gets for Nigeria. In terms of the second leg of the demography pillar is financial leeway. What is the level of public debt out there by the government of the country? Africa also scored very, very high in this pillar too when it comes to the financial leeway, because the public debt compared to countries like Portugal, Italy is not as high as it is. So because of that, Africa really did well in this first pillar of the Allianz Pension Indicator. The second pillar is the sustainability pillar. And what is the sustainability pillar all about? This pillar is telling us what is the reaction of your pension system to changes in the demography. So for this pillar, we look at the retirement age. What is the current retirement age of your country? The higher the retirement age, the more sustainable your pension system is. We are looking at the sustainability in the sense that if there are shocks to the system, are there inbuilt stabilizers to ensure that your pension system is not blown apart? So you look at the level of contributors to the level of those that are actually earning pension today. There must be a balance between the two at every point in time. Otherwise, the pension system stands the risk of exploding and going into distress. Then the last leg of the Allianz Pension Indicator is the adequacy. And when we talk about adequacy, we are looking at the benefits and the coverage. So the pension that we are currently giving our people, or will be giving to pensioners in the next 10, 20, 30 years, is it enough to maintain an adequate standard of living? Is it enough to give them an adequate standard of living? And how do we measure this? For coverage, we look at those that are contributing now, those that are in the working age. What percentage of them are actually contributing to any pension of any form? For Nigeria, the record is very, very low. Less than 8% of the working population is actually contributing to any form of pension in Nigeria, according to this report. Then the flip side of coverage is those that are actually meant to be earning pensions, those that are older than 60, 65 years old. What percentage of these people are also covered by our pensions? The percentage for this one too is also very low, lesser than 7%. So on these three pillars, the only pillar that we actually did well was on the first pillar, which is the demography, because of our young population. According to the report and statistics available, the old age dependency ratio is about 2.7%. That means that ages 64 and below constitute more than 97% of our population. That means that we have a very, very young population. And because of that, we came first on this pillar. But on the sustainability pillar, We came 55th out of 70 countries.
And that's a huge gap.
And that's a huge gap. And for the adequacy, it even becomes worse. We are 68 on the adequacy pillar. That means that our current pension system is not even adequate enough to support the current pensioners, not to talk of the future generation of pensioners.
Now, looking at the report, you've talked about Nigeria, and of course, Nigeria ranks behind countries like South Africa, Kenya, and Morocco, talking about the African countries that were ranked on that list. So what lessons do we need to learn from these other African countries? What are you doing differently?
So for the first actually on the list in Africa is Egypt. The first on the list is Egypt. They came in at number 36. What they are doing differently is, one, they have a good public pension system, which makes their own adequacy a little bit better than ours. You know, on adequacy, I said we came in at number 68. I think Egypt came in at number 28 on adequacy because they have a public pension that supports their private pensions. But for Nigeria, we don't have any form of public pension. What we have is our private pensions. And when you look at our private pensions, if you look at our Pension Reform Act 2014 as amended, the act speaks majorly to those in the formal sector. The informal sector is completely left out. So the informal sector has practically no form of pension. So those are part of the lessons we should learn. We need to look at the adequacy and ensure that our pensions cover as many people as possible. Then another thing we need to learn on the sustainability is, like I told you earlier, for sustainability, the older your retirement age, the better for you. For Nigeria, for the federal civil servants, the retirement age is 60. But when you look at European countries that are topping the chart, like Sweden and Belgium, their retirement age is 67, 68. Some even have 70. So what does this mean? It means that the rate at which people are moving from contributors to pensioners, there's a balance. Apart from the fact that our retirement age is 60, the Pension Reform Act states that when you are 50 and you decide to retire, you can have full access to your pension fund. So technically, the retirement age is 50 when it comes to our Pension Reform Act, because once I'm 50 and I decide to retire, I can have full access to my pension fund. But in other climes, if you are retiring before the retirement age, there are pension deductions. So if you are retiring at age 50, 55, they might say instead of getting 100% of your contributions, you'll be getting 80%. So that would dissuade people from retiring early.
Now, apart from the retirement age, now let's talk more about the countries that rank in the top 10. Of course, talking like Sweden, Belgium, and Denmark, just like you mentioned. What else are they doing differently apart from the retirement age, which you've compared with Nigeria?
A country like Sweden and Belgium, there are three pillars. The first pillar is the public pension. They have a functional public pension system, which is fully run by the government, that we do not have in Nigeria. The second leg is the occupational pensions, the normal one we have in Nigeria, where your employer contributes a certain percentage, you contribute a certain percentage. Then there's the third leg, which is the private pensions. So of these three legs, Nigeria has only the occupational pension. The private pension is non-existent. The public pension system is non-existent. So because of this, our pension system is inadequate to actually provide for pensioners as they fall due.
So are you saying that Nigeria should actually adopt these modules in these countries, for instance? So are you sure that it will actually work
there is no, the environment determines what you are going to adopt. What we are advocating by this report is we need to reform our pension system. Our retirement age is 60 currently. We are not saying move it to 70. We are not saying move it to 65. But look at the ideal retirement age, and let's work on that. When we talk about adequacy, like I said earlier, there is no pension coverage for the informal sector. What's it called? PENCOM has already brought out guidelines on micro pension system. But the guidelines came out in 2018. But till date, that guideline is yet to be implemented. The informal sector is still left unprotected. They have no form of pension whatsoever. So we need to look at all these things. Like I said, there is no perfect fix. You look at your environment and you have to localize your pension system to suit your environment.
Now, what role do regulators have to play in these reforms, especially in the area of financial inclusion?
So the regulators, in the areas of financial inclusion, one of the reasons why the pension level is very low is because people don't even have access to financial services. When you get to the rural areas, how many of them are banked? How do you tell somebody who is unbanked to come and start taking pensions? It is practically impossible. So it is not only the pension regulators that have a lot of job to do now. And when I say the pension regulators, it is not only PENCOM, but even CBN, when it comes to making financial services accessible to everybody, irrespective of where you stay in Nigeria, irrespective of your age, irrespective of your occupation. That is the job the regulators have to do to ensure that pension gets across each and every one.
Now, does this report in any way take into cognizance the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic?
Definitely, it doesn't really go deep into the effects of COVID-19 because the report actually is based on data available as at March 2020. So you know the full effect of the COVID came around towards the end of March. So it doesn't really look at it, but even at that, we still mentioned the effect of COVID-19 on pension systems. First and foremost, with the advent of COVID-19, we have seen that interest rates are dropping. Inflation rate is rising. Whilst your interest rate is dropping, what is the effect on the pension funds that you have today? That means that your pension funds is not going to yield much by the time you retire. When you couple this with rising inflation rates, by the time you retire in the next 10, 15, 20 years, your pension that you earn can practically buy you nothing because it has been eroded by inflation and reduced interest rate. Secondly is the issue of unemployment. Like I said earlier, the pension, the coverage is less than 8%. Now, with the pandemic, businesses are closing shop. What that means is that as businesses are closing shop, jobs will be lost. The average wage level in the country will definitely reduce, and that will bring a reduction to those that are actually contributing into the pension fund. So definitely the pandemic, COVID-19, has a direct effect on our pension system.
Now, you've talked about the informal sector, largely, left out. How do we actually incorporate the informal sector to contribute more towards pension?
So now, like I said, the Pension Reform Act 2014 is skewed towards the formal sector. They made mention of the informal sector, but it is voluntary, not compulsory. The first step is for the regulators to ensure that it is a compulsory item in the Pension Reform Act. If it is voluntary, nobody is there to enforce it. Even the one for the formal sector, is there 100% enforcement? You understand? So the first step to ensure that the informal sector is included in this is to make that microinsurance guideline that was adopted in 2018 to be implemented and made compulsory for anyone in the informal sector.
Now, when you talk about the demographic shifts now, the number of people in retirement age, of course, are expected to increase, and that will put social security system under stress. But, of course, when you consider the deaths of old retirees that have been occasioned by the outbreak of COVID-19 across the globe now, is that actually, that projection, how tenable is it?
The projection of the increase in, demographic change is not something that happens overnight. It takes 10, 20, 30 years. So from the report, what they are saying, come 2050, Nigeria currently, the percentage of the number of people living above age 65 is 5.6 million. Come 2050, it is estimated from this report that that number will increase to about 16 million. That's 3 times what we have now. Now, when you have a pension system that cannot cater for 5 million people, how is that pension system going to survive when the number of people increase from 5.6 to 16 million? So that is why we need that reform now to ensure that by the time, come 2050, come 2060, when the old age population ratio has increased, the pension system is robust enough to cater for each and every one.
But if you were to say what should be the content of some of those reforms, what would you like to see?
So first and foremost, what would be the content of the reforms? First and foremost, on the second pillar, sustainability, the retirement age. We need to look at retirement age. We are not here to say this must be the ideal retirement age. You need to look at your environment. You need to look at your local realities to fix that retirement age. But leaving it at 60, leaving it at 50 is not sustainable in the long run. Then when we talk about adequacy, you must have a pension system that covers all retirees. Once you are older than 65, whether you're in the informal sector or the formal sector, you are sure that you are covered by a pension system. Then for contributions, at least 75% of the working population must be covered to have an ideal and a robust pension system.
And what about employers of labor? Do they play any role in this regard?
So, like I said earlier, we have the Pension Reforms Act 2014 as amended. And this act makes it compulsory for every employer to have a pension in place for each and every one of their staff. And they have been mandated that each employee must have a retirement savings account with a PFE of his choosing. Now, the employers are to pay 10% of your earnings, while you are meant to pay 8%. Once the employers can fully comply to this, like I said earlier, we have a Pension Reform Act. Is it being adhered to 100%? Are all employers of labor, guided by their act, actually providing pensions for their employees? You hear some stories of people actually deducting these pensions from the employees, but they don't remit on time. So all these things, that's in cases like this, the employers to also have a part to play. They must ensure that each employee has a retirement savings account. Once the deductions are made, they are paid within the regulated time, because there's a regulation in the Pension Reform Act that within 30 days, you must credit the retirement savings account of each and every employee with your own contribution and the employee's contribution. But you discover that some employers deduct your contributions and don't even remit it on time. Some don't even remit at all.
And Head of Employee Benefits at Allianz Nigeria Insurance, Gomez Oladeinde, thanks for coming on Business Morning.